Here we're removing the two screws from the door pull on the door panel. It also holds the window and door lock switch. Once those are removed, you can remove the wiring from the door pull. And behind that is two more Torx screws that hold the door panel to the door frame. There is also another screw up by the door latch. We didn't show that being removed, but it's one Phillips screw. Once you get all the screws removed, you can pull from the bottom to release the push pins from the back of the panel. And at top, you'll have to remove the little shark fin plastic piece. It just pulls out from the top and then slides up out of the door panel. And now you can push up to remove the door panel and pull your wiring and door handle through the panel. Now I'll remove the insulation and cover from the door frame to reveal the regulator motor and slide. Here we're removing the two bolts that hold the window to the sliding mechanism on the regulator. There's some holes provided so you can get to the bolts. You have to have it at a certain level. If you can't get the window to move because the motor or the wiring that makes it slide is binded up, cut the wires and then you can bring that window down to those holes. That's what we had to do. Now the window is loose from the regulator. You can slide it all the way up into the door frame up above and tape it in place out of your way. I'm sorry I didn't show that. And now you can start removing the three bolts to hold the motor on. There's also going to be a wiring connector on the motor that you'll have to unplug. Since we had to cut the wires, the cables from the motor, it was easy just to pull the motor out by itself and disconnect the wiring. I have found that purchasing these regulators on Amazon and eBay, the cheapest places you're going to find them, but they are made cheaply as well. Here he's removing the bolts to hold the sliding mechanism part of the regulator. There's 3 bolts, 2 bottom, 1 at top. Here we are, I put the new motor and sliding mechanism, the complete regulator in at once. Found it's best to put the motor in first, along with the bottom of the sliding mechanism of the regulator. And this seems just to go in real easy that way. While I'm holding him in place, he's getting a couple screws in to hold it in place for us. You can put a couple screws in the mechanism before you put it in, because they will slide into those slots, but it does make it kind of more difficult to get the assembly into the door jamb. And don't forget to plug your wiring harness back into the motor of the regulator. The aftermarket one has a little bit longer pigtail that you plug it into, so you'll have to push it out of the way of the window slides. Did anybody know my shirt's on inside out? The aftermarket regulator had some tabs on it here at the bottom that were been out of place a little bit, so we had to took us some time to get the bolts back in. Here we are, just making sure they're all snug. Here we're sliding the window back down into place. We're taking the tape off that was holding it up. If you need to, you can plug your switch back into the wiring harness to slide that regulator up and down to get in the place where you can bolt that window back up to that regulator. Now he's got the bolts in to the regulator and into the window. He's just snugging these up. I think we had a little bit of alignment problem there. We just had to get the holes lined back up again. Here we are, giving a little test, make sure it works before we put it all back together. And now we're just gonna put the door panel on in reverse of how we took it off. You kind of slide it in from the top, get your pegs lined up, snap it in, put the cover around your door latch back on. There's a screw that goes into that cover around the door latch. The door pull, plus all its electrical connections. The little shark fin piece above the door panel. And the screws that hold the door pull on. And she'll be done. Now the door trim piece is something you normally wouldn't mess with, but ours was broken, so we had to attach it a different way from what the factory had it. Here I am standing in the way. Here he's plugging the electrical connection back into the door pull, putting it in place. Then there'll be 2 more screws that go in to hold that down. Well, thank you all for watching it.
Good enough.